The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
My name is Banfield. I shot him. He stabbed her.
Your wife has died.
Is the defendant going to testify, Mr. Farrar?
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me?
Yes.
He is going to testify.
Did police get the right guy? That is the burning question as defendant Brendan Banfield is expected to testify in his own defense in the Au Pair Affair murder trial. Plus, former NFL star Antonio Brown is fighting an attempted murder charge with a stand-your-ground defense. We're analyzing the shooting video with a use of force expert. Plus, two mothers, two murder plots. Disturbing parallels are emerging between convicted killer Donna Adelson and defendant Tracy Grist. Plus, Sarah Grace Patrick is staying put. The teenage defendant denied bond. And we have one of America's favorite judges on the show this morning to weigh in on the ruling. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We have an outstanding show planned, so let's get started. Grab that coffee right now. It's time for my opening statements. Let's think about Valerie. That poor, innocent little girl born to Brendan and Christine Banfield has been victimized in an unspeakable way. On the day in question, when Valerie's mom, Christine, was killed in their family home, Valerie was inside of the house too when all that horror occurred. Remember, the au pair told us how they put her in the basement while the homicides were happening. Can you imagine how terrifying it must have been for that little girl to presumably hear her mom screaming? Can you imagine how scary it must have been for her to hear the sound of gunshots being fired upstairs? And she's down in the basement, presumably petrified at those loud noises she's hearing and the screaming she's hearing. Think about it. That poor, precious child. I was thinking about this last night, my friends, and it makes me sick. You know, we're not seeing little Valerie in this trial because of her age, of course, and that's why I want to make a point to talk about her this morning on this program. She's been forced now to grow up without her mom. And one day she'll likely learn the way in which her mom was taken. And depending upon how this trial goes, she may grow up without her dad as well. So this morning I say let's send Valerie our love and our prayers, as no child deserves to experience what she has experienced. May God comfort her and bless her and surround her always with the support that she needs. That's my opening statement on this Wednesday. Let me know if you like it. Right now, time for your daily docket.
I heard my mom and Kevin talking about placing the knife in his hand. I heard Kevin say, be careful, he might still be kicking, like to be careful.
In Utah, we've got the closing arguments expected in the family murder plot trial for defendant Kevin Ellis. Court's going to begin at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. In New Jersey, we have the state's case continuing in the Mansion murders trial for defendant Paul Canero. Testimony resumes at 8:30 a.m. Eastern there. And in Virginia, the case I was just talking about, defendant Brendan Banfield expected to testify today in the Au Pair Affair murder trial. And that is where we kick off our show this hour. So we want to pose the question, did the police get the wrong guy? Well, that's the question defense attorneys want the jury to be considering in the Au Pair Affair murder trial. Banfield, the defendant, accused of murdering his wife, Christine, and a man named Joseph Ryan, in what prosecutors say was a calculated catfishing murder plot. But the defense says the state built its case on a single theory pushed by police supervisors.
I believe that it was overwhelming that this was a catfish. I think the term has been used kind of across the board now. That was set up by the defendant, yes.
Was one of those theories catfishing?
It wasn't stated what the theory was. It just said
there were two theories and you need to get behind the right one.
Do you know what catfishing is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that something that you were pushing with your homicide detectives at any point?
I wouldn't characterize that as pushing.
The defense also questions the credibility of the au pair, calling her a liar who cut a deal to save herself. Now, the jury must weigh two different versions of what occurred on that dreadful day. So will Brendan Banfield's testimony move the needle at all in the defense case? And did police get the right guy? Let's talk about it with two law enforcement expert guests. I want to welcome in now two retired police supervisors, Deputy Inspector Corey Pegues and Lieutenant Mike Gould. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Let's start with whether police got the right guy. Let's start with that question, and then we'll move to the catfishing. Inspector, your thoughts?
Hey, good morning. First, let me tell you what a beautiful, beautiful opening statement for Valerie. That was really nice, very moving. I definitely think that Brendan has something to do with the murder, for sure. Jelena definitely is trying to save herself, but you have to understand, after a while, when you're sitting in jail for 24 hours a day and your lover, the person that you possibly conspired with to do this murder, to get rid of her so you could get into the one spot, the love dissipates and goes away. But and then that's when you make the deal. You say, hey, listen, I'm sitting here in jail, I'm rotting in jail, and he just got away. So she does the deal. I definitely think that he had something to do with it, for sure.
Lieutenant, what do you say?
Yeah, good morning, Julie. So, yeah, I completely agree with your sentiments regarding, I have a soft spot for children and animals because they're so defenseless. And these things lately have been so heinous, there's always seems to be children involved. I agree with Corey that they have the right guy, at least in the involvement. It never ceases to amaze me, Julie. We tell our children, don't talk to strangers online. We tell them that it's dangerous. So I wouldn't get a piano instructor online, let alone somebody to come into my house with knives, restraints, tell them how to get in and commit this depraved sexual fantasy. I think when he testifies, they'll probably really rip into him. There is going to be conflicting expert witnesses. When I testify as an expert, I believe 110% on my opinion, and I'd like to believe the other side's expert believes that. So we have the defense is doing what they're doing. They're taking every bit of evidence and making holes in it, creating reasonable doubt. So I think him testifying, if he actually does, is not going to be to his advantage. No.
And Lieutenant, really appreciate the point you made about how you said, I won't get a piano instructor online. Why? Because that's not safe. I want to follow up with that with you. For anybody watching right now who's like, never really thought about this. When you find somebody online, I mean, in any capacity, let's use that example you gave us, Lieutenant, you could be inviting danger.
Yeah, Julie, and again, this thing could have went sideways for all of them. How do they know they're not hiring Freddy Krueger to come, or gangbangers coming in to rob the house and slaughter every one of them? So to think that this diabolical plot he's going to shoot them, he's going to put a knife in their hands, and this is all going to unfold as in their imagination, in their planning stages, it's shocking to me. As I said, you have this person you don't know, you're telling them how to get in, don't make noise, you can be violent, don't worry, I'll scream a little. Whatever it was, whoever started this, it was certainly an adult. It wasn't the 4-year-old child that engaged in this activity.
Right. Excellent points, Lieutenant. Thank you for that. I have a clip. This is from the defense expert witness who said there was no catfishing. Corey, we'll talk on the other side.
Based upon your review of this data, were you able to draw any opinions related to this case?
I was.
And what were those opinions?
That catfishing did not occur.
Okay, so the defense expert witness was good. We know that. And we know the defense attorney is good too. And he's highlighted how various officers who worked this case have disagreed. and there was disagreement going on between supervisors, some detectives on the ground, some officers who first responded. Not everybody was on the same page at first with this, but then eventually there was a theory that the department said was solid, credible, that Brendan Banfield did catfish Joseph Ryan with the au pair to kill his wife and make poor Joseph Ryan collateral damage. Corey, I want to tap into your experience when you have people below you that you're supervising that disagree. How common is that, and how do you work that out?
Well, listen, when you're doing any case, you got to look at it from 10,000 feet down. You're going to gather all the information. Are you going to have some conflicting accounts sometime? Yes, you are. But Mike could tell you that's why you have supervisors and bosses, because supervisors and bosses actually have a little more experience than seasoned detectives, and in terms of making leadership decisions. So you have to analyze all of the information and make a decision. So the supervisors actually are really the ones that make the decision. And Mike can tell you, he's a seasoned supervisor, lieutenant, squad command. You get all information from the supervisors. And yeah, sometimes some of the information might be conflicted, but that's why everybody comes together and you make a decision. Someone has to make a decision. The decision isn't on the lower level. The decision comes from the top.
And sometimes when you're not in the thick of it, it might be easier to make that decision, I would think. Mike, would you speak to that, please?
Yeah, no, Corey got it right. A supervisor has to look at these things from 10,000 feet, and you welcome different opinions, but that doesn't say you might not reassign somebody. That's very common. If you have somebody that's more experienced with knife homicides or or digital evidence, whatever it is, you want to get the best investigators. So the problem comes in when suspicion about it arises. Does the police have tunnel vision? Are they just going for him? As Stalin said, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Are they developing the evidence around it? I don't think any of this evidence individually as little nuggets is unusual. It's when you add them all up. And will it provide reasonable doubt to a jury? Who, by the way, juries today are very sophisticated, Julie, thanks to shows like yours. They're familiar with all of these things. So it's not like 15 or 20 years ago where DNA, ballistic evidence, knife evidence, jurors are coming to the table armed with knowledge. So I would like to see, and we've seen it in past cases, we see greed and lust and child custody has always been motives. And I think that the juries have successfully seen through all of this digital evidence and the DNA and stuff. So I'm pretty optimistic he's going to get convicted. Okay, I'm at about a 70% success rate here, but I think he's going to be found guilty. I think they'll establish that.
Really appreciate your insights. Thank you for the kind words. Lieutenant Mike Gold, Deputy Inspector Corey Pegues, thank you both for the excellent discussion this morning. We'll see what happens when this guy gets on the stand. And coming up next here on Opening Statements.
It was the holster left on the scene that we have submitted proof belonged to my client. That was his own holster from his own weapon for which he has a concealed weapons permit, and they went and DNA.
We're breaking down Antonio Brown's shooting incident. His defense team saying he was standing his ground. We've got a use of force expert on the show next to weigh in. Plus, we have two moms, each accused of masterminding deadly plans against their son-in-laws. We're talking about the similarities between Mama Donna and Tracy Grist.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Welcome back. Antonio Brown is back in the news as a trending topic as he's accused of attempted homicide. But Florida's Stand Your Ground law could make or break his case. Prosecutors believe the former NFL All-Pro unlawfully fired his gun at a man back in May of 2025 after a fistfight between the two occurred. Now, Brown appeared in court on Tuesday via Zoom, his attorney arguing for DNA results to prove that Brown owned the gun that he's accused of using, saying that the defendant acted within his rights to protect himself.
My client voluntarily submitted a swab recently. And if the test goes the way that we expect, we believe that that's going to undermine a significant allegation the state made. So we're wondering when we can expect that DNA evidence.
State, you have a response?
No, Your Honor, I'm not sure. I know that we did receive a DNA result, is my understanding. That was provided to the defense counsel, so I'm not quite sure exactly which DNA result he's looking for.
The state is claiming that the swab that was taken in my office, in my presence with the agents, just a couple of weeks ago, that somehow that made it to the lab and that there's results on that, and we have been supplied that result. Is that what the state's alleging?
Judge, that's my understanding. I can double check.
Okay, I want to clarify something. The state is saying that he stole a gun from a security guard, and that was the gun used in the incident. But his defense team is saying it was his gun that he owned with a concealed carry weapons permit that he was carrying holstered on that day. So just wanted to clarify that. So here's surveillance footage of the incident. Let's look at this together. Look at the spotlight here. You can see Antonio Brown and the alleged victim. They're getting in a fight before Brown is pulled away. Then moments later, Brown emerges from behind a white SUV. You're going to see that happen. And when he comes out from behind, there it is, he appears to take a gun from his hip. Okay, look very closely. Take another look. The gun used in the shooting seems to have been in his possession during the altercation. Okay? The state of Florida says otherwise. But the state of Florida is challenging something much bigger, the shooting itself. They're saying that this was unlawful attempted homicide. He's saying the shooting was justified, that he was in fear of his life and being attacked by this man, and that the two of them have a long tortured history together. Let's bring in Florida attorney Dave Ehrenberg. He served as the state attorney in Palm Beach County. He's in private practice now. Oh, Dave, take us to school, if you would, please, with the stand your ground law and the facts we've got here.
Well, Julie, it's great to be back with you. So under Florida law, if you're going to seek stand your ground immunity, you can't be engaged in criminal activity. So if you're disarming a security guard, taking away someone's gun, well, that would be a crime. And so stand your ground is ineligible. But even if this were his own gun, he still also showed that he was in imminent danger, not the initial aggressor. And that's what it seems here. It seems like he was the initial aggressor. And it seems that he created the threat. It was not that he was in reasonable imminent fear for his life when he was the one who pursued the victim here and attacked him. So I think it's an uphill battle to get a judge to throw out the case before it ever gets to a jury.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Dave. So to be very clear, this stand your ground hearing could end things entirely, or it could mean that he could go on to trial and raise it again there in front of the jury, right?
Yeah, what's amazing about stand your ground, Julie, is that it gives defendants two bites at the apple. When I was a prosecutor, I hated this because first you go to a judge and you say that this prosecution has to prove with clear and convincing evidence, more than probable cause, not as much as beyond a reasonable doubt, but with clear and convincing evidence that the defendant was not in reasonable fear of his life. And if he does not take the stand in his defense, he can then come back at trial later and say, I didn't shoot him. I didn't fire the gun. Now he's saying, yes, I fired the gun. It was in self-defense. But if he doesn't take the stand, they can actually argue the opposite, that you got the wrong guy at trial. So it's a big benefit for defendants. But on the other hand, judges are usually not willing to take the case out of the hands of the jury, to say, stand your ground applies, case over. They usually like to let the jury decide, not themselves.
Oh, wow, this is a really helpful explainer. Dave Ehrenberg, thank you so much for explaining the legal side to us. Now let's get to the use of force situation. I want to welcome into the conversation use of force expert, law enforcement officer, my pal David Wright. Good morning to you, David. Boy, it's been a while since we've seen you. Thanks for coming back on the show. And I'm going to have to use first and last names with you and Dave Ehrenberg. So David Wright, this question is to you, my friend. Take a look at the video, if you would. We're going to roll the video and have you talk over it, please, and tell us what you're picking up on when you watch the situation with Antonio Brown. Oh, and I think we're having trouble with your audio, David, right?
You see,
okay, David. Yeah, okay, here we go. We got you. Okay, tell us what you're seeing here.
The initial video, I see two mutual combatants. Who instigated it? Good question, but on the surface, I see two people engaged in mutual combat, hand-to-hand combat.
Yes. Okay. So when we started off, you see, they're close. Their bodies are close, and so when you're saying mutual combat, mutual fighting, which in Pennsylvania, where I got to be your ADA for a time in the city of Pittsburgh. That's a charge. You can charge people for mutual combat. When two people willingly engage in an assault on each other, that actually is a crime there. In Florida, prosecutors seem to be more focused on what happens next. Okay, so we got the mutual combat, punches being thrown, and then we're going to see him go around the vehicle, kicking the victim. Okay, Dave, let's take a look at this now.
So Brown is leaving. The incident right now, is it ongoing or is it over? And does Brown come back? There's a key ingredient here. Is it Brown justified in his use of force, and then how much? The stand your ground, is it reasonable, as Dave mentioned earlier, for him to use deadly force? Is it reasonable for him to use force? And then the next question, is it reasonable for him to use deadly force? Whether it's his gun or not, as you mentioned earlier, is the use of deadly force justified? And is Brown's life an imminent threat right now? Is it pending? Is it going to happen in terms of a threat to his life? And that's a question that needs to be answered.
Mm-hmm. David, you made a really great point. So it's like he backs off and then he appears to come back. Does it look to you like he's getting that gun out of his own holster, or does it look like he might have taken it from the security guard?
It looks to me it comes from his waistband, myself. But again, it's hard to tell. From my vantage point and the vantage point you're giving, it looks like it comes from his waistband. And also, does he lose his right to stand his ground here? Did he instigate it? He's engaged in criminal activity himself. Those are all grounds for possibly losing your right to defend, for stand your ground. Mm-hmm. But it does look like, to me, as if it comes from his waistband.
Mm-hmm. And then how about shooting at this point in time, David, after he backs off the fight, goes around the car? What do you think about whether he's going to be justified in firing shots at that point?
There's a lot of things at issue here. I always refer to the elements of force, ability. Does the victim in this case, does the victim in this case have the ability to cause death or serious bodily injury to Brown? Is there an opportunity for that victim to do so? And as a result of those two things, is he putting Brown in imminent fear of his life? At that point, okay, Brown has the ability and the right to defend himself using reasonable force, but now the gun comes out too. There's another element here, and that is brandishing that firearm and then firing rounds into a crowded area. That once that bullet goes down range, Brown's responsible for it, and a lot of people were put in harm's way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Dave. We can see why the state of Florida has brought charges. And as you brought up, just listening to you speak, there are lots of issues here. There are lots of different nuances here. As you and Dave Ehrenberg have explained, different hurdles the defense has to go through. So we'll see what happens. He's got another hearing coming up in February. So we'll keep everybody posted. David Wright, thank you so much. We got to let you get called. Let us know if you get called as an expert witness here. You are one. So let us know if you get that phone call, please. Dave Ehrenberg's coming along. You do the same at home. Here's what's next.
Matthew's Rastelli's wife, Kate, and his brother-in-law, Kevin, and his mother-in-law, Tracy, conspired to murder him.
So there's multiple searches in Tracy's internet history of the Adelson family.
The family murder plot trial in Utah, eerily similar to the case against Mama Donna Adelson. We're diving deeper into the parallels next. Plus, accused parent killer Sarah Grace Patrick behind bars. That's the court's decision. Well, guess what? We got one of America's favorite judges on the program to talk about it.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. This morning, the spotlight is on an alleged family murder plot in Utah to eliminate a relative and how it's drawing similarities to the Florida Adelson family in the murder of Danny Markell. Defendant Kevin Ellis is on trial in Utah, accused in murdering his brother-in-law, Matthew Restelli, as part of a plot, allegedly with his mom and his sister, but he claims it was in self-defense. Well, detectives say the victim was not armed and was lured to his death by Ellis's sister, Catherine, who happens to be the victim's wife. Prosecutors allege the brother and sister plotted with her mother, Tracy Grist, to kill Matthew Restelli, and that Grist even searched Donna Adelson's case online.
So that is February 15th, 2024. At 7:09 a.m., it is searched. When is Donald Adelson next hearing?
At the time that you saw this search, did you know who Donna Adelson was?
The first time I seen her name pop up in Tracy's history, no, I did not.
And when did you decide to figure out who she was?
So there's multiple searches in Tracy's internet history of the Adelson family.
When did you first see the Donna Adelson search?
It would have been in July of 2024 when I was digging through Tracy's phone download.
Ellis and Grist's trials have been severed, and Catherine Restelli has pleaded guilty to murder and criminal conspiracy. Let's bring in attorney Dave Ehrenberg and talk about this. Dave, before we heard the testimony pertaining to Donna Adelson, viewers were saying this case in Utah reminds us of the Adelsons. And then you actually hear that she was aware of Donna Adelson. I just can't. Your thoughts on this, please, Dave?
You know, prosecutors benefit from dumb criminals. They keep using the internet to search for things that come back to haunt them. And here, Tracy Grist was actually Googling Donna Adelson like she's a role model. And there are a lot of similarities. Big difference, though, is that Tracy Grist has taken responsibility, pled guilty, and is turning state's evidence and or witness. And therefore, I think that's big and a big difference than Donna Adelson, who continues to this day to maintain her innocence. She doesn't want you to believe what your lying eyes are telling you. But here you have the matriarchs in both family who arranged for hits of their son-in-laws. In one case with Danny Markell, he was no longer a son-in-law, an ex-son-in-law, but he was the one who was targeted, and the whole thing was a setup, just like in the Adelson case, but except for the mother providing the murder weapon, like in Grist's case. In the Adelson case, they hired a hitman. It was much cleaner for them that way, apparently.
So, yeah, I mean, these cases are a hot mess, both of them, as you know, my friend. And just wanted to clarify something, so because they look alike. The daughter is who pleaded. Mom is still fighting it. So, yeah.
They do look alike.
They look alike. They look alike. No, it's all good. And it's a mess, and it's hard to keep the names straight. But it brings me to my next question for you, my friend, because in this case, we got the sister taking responsibility. We know there's a sister in Florida, or actually, I don't think she's in Florida anymore. I heard she was in Austin, Texas, last time we checked in. Wendy, who has not been charged with anything. And Dave, you and I have talked before. We're in the camp that she should be charged. What are your thoughts on that situation?
Well, I predicted that Wendy would be charged by Thanksgiving. Of course, I didn't say which Thanksgiving. It could be Thanksgiving 2027.
That's right, my friend.
Yes, that's the thing. When there's videotape, they can come back and use it against you when you make a bad prediction. I do think ultimately Wendy will be charged. I still believe so. I think that there's enough evidence out there. She was a subject of the last trial, even though the last trial was about Donna. The foreperson of the jury afterwards, when Donna was convicted, said, yeah, of course Wendy was involved, and I think she'll be next. So when you have the foreperson of the jury on a trial that does not involve, technically, Wendy saying, yeah, Wendy is guilty, wow, that should tell you that Wendy is likely going to be next. It's up to the prosecutors. I think they are developing more evidence because they want to make sure they have a stronger case, because Wendy will be the hardest of the Adelson family members to be prosecuted.
Yeah, great insight, Dave. So I have a clip from Sister Catherine Restelli in the Utah case, and this is where she's talking about her mom's manipulation of Kevin Ellis, her brother, who's on trial right now. Let's take a look.
You would say Kevin's suicidal. We could just have Kevin go out there and kill Matt and kill himself.
She had said that out loud, yes.
So, clearly, do you agree that that's an example of somebody who thinks they can manipulate their son's mental state to cause him to do something that you guys would like, or at least she would like to see done?
Absolutely.
That testimony seemed to be kind of helping her brother there, kind of throw mom under the bus a little bit. Dave, what do you think?
Yes, but the evidence is what it is. I mean, you'd have to believe, and I don't even understand his explanation, that he really felt in fear of his life. It really was self-defense, that somehow the victim really did have a knife when it was clear the knife was planted. I mean, they planted it in the wrong hand. They planted it in the right hand when he's the lefty and his right hand was shot at. Anyways, it was already incapable of using it. So the whole thing was a setup, and the son was involved. So I just think this is headed towards a guilty verdict, just like in the Adelson case, where they thought they were smarter than everyone else and they were coming up with weird lies and conspiracy theories that the jury did not buy. I don't think the jury is going to buy any of this, any of the explanations, even as it is shown that the mothers in both cases are controlling. But that fits with the narrative that she was pulling the strings. And even if the son is under her spell, they still did it.
Right, Dave. You know, and if she didn't have, any control over him, who knows where we'd be at this point. We know that his defense team, wanted to call her as a witness. That didn't work out so well. Let's look at the moment where her attorney said she'd be taking the fifth.
Your Honor, after speaking with my client and giving her an opportunity to speak individually to the court, she has chosen at this time to allow me to represent her, that she will invoke her Fifth Amendment right to remain silent on any questions posed.
Okay, so choosing not to help out her son. Dave, does that surprise you?
No, every man for himself. You saw that with the Adelson case. Tight-knit family, right? When things get tough, they start running. So no, not surprising.
Yeah, not at all. We'll see. Your prediction on Wendy, that was a great one. Like you said, you didn't specify which Thanksgiving. I'm thinking by this one coming up in November. Dave Ehrenberg, you're the best. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. We're going to hit a break, friends, but don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss our next guest. We've got one of America's favorite judges joining us live to weigh in on Sarah Grace Patrick.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Welcome back. Teenage murder suspect Sarah Grace Patrick will stay behind bars, but testimony from her grandfather is raising some eyebrows. On Tuesday, the Honorable Dustin Hightower said that there wasn't anything new that would warrant him releasing Patrick from custody, where she's been held since her arrest last August. But another layer to the story came out from Patrick's grandparents. There they are. They testified yesterday at the bond hearing, and most of the details came through her maternal grandfather, who detailed some negotiations with a media company covering the case.
What companies were you negotiating with?
Oh, there's probably 10 or 15 of them. I don't have a list with me.
Sure. Did you sign a contract with any of them?
Yes.
Okay. Which media company did you sign a contract with?
Lady Well.
Can you spell that for me?
It's LADYWELL.
Okay. Lady Well. Okay. How long is that contract for?
Well, it's for production that will be post-trial.
Okay, now remember, their daughter is Kristen Brock, so their daughter is Sarah Grace's mother. So we're wondering, could the production company deal tip the scales of justice? And what about the bond? Was that the right decision? Here to talk about all of this, let's bring in one of America's favorite judges. He famously presided over Anna Nicole Smith's body custody case. The Honorable Larry Seidlin is with us. Good morning to you, Judge.
Good morning, Julie. Nice to be with you.
Oh, thanks so much. Great to be with you as well. And if we could start with the bond, and then we'll get to this movie deal or whatever it is. So as far as the bond goes, do you think that was the right call by the judge to keep this woman locked up?
Yes. The first thing you have to do as a judge, you have to protect your own position. You have to make sure you get yourself reelected. This judge in Georgia, the judges get elected every 4 years. So imagine this for a moment. The judge lets her out on a bond, and then she commits another heinous crime. That judge will be outside that courthouse washing cars. That judge won't be sitting on the bench any longer. So there's a fear factor by the court. Do you allow this individual out? Now, the conditions of bond are the severity of the crime. How serious is the crime that this person is alleged to have committed? The history, the criminal history of the individual, and the risk to the community. And when you look at the facts of this case, this gal, Sarah, she is alleged to have shot the mother, her natural mother, and the stepfather many times in their sleep. You know, I kid around and I say, for Thanksgiving, if we handed out knives and guns, half America would be dead. There's just so much dysfunction in the family unit, from hostility and anger and jealousy. There's just a lot of problems in all these families. And we know it when we talk to different individuals. The judge made the right decision. It's a cautious decision. You can't take risk. The judge is in the criminal division. There's so many cases coming in front of the court. And if you start letting these people out, especially on the murder case, you're putting a loaded gun to your own head.
You're exactly right, Judge. Great insights. And as you were talking, we're playing video of Sarah Grace, and we're looking at her. And I wonder if this were a scary, monster kind of looking defendant, would we even be having the question of whether did Judge get bond rate? Here you have this teenager, and her hair's in a braid. She's looking all soft and sweet and innocent. Yet we've got, as you pointed out, Judge, 2 murder charges that she allegedly committed. So, how much do you think her face and her age are factoring into so much of the fascination going on with her case around the country and the world?
Well, when I was in the courtroom sitting as a judge, I completely looked at the individual. I sort of x-rayed them with my eyes to watch the way they were moving, all that body language. And this gal seems to be detached from reality. She's in la la land, and she's frightening. And the jury will have a decision to make whether or not she's guilty of these crimes. But there's no way this judge is going to put their neck on a line for this woman. She was 17 when she was alleged to have committed the crime. Now she's turning 18 or is 18. It's too much of a risk. You're not going to the racetrack and betting on a horse like this, because there's an opportunity, if she hits the street, that she could commit another crime or injure the people related to the people that were murdered. And they're afraid. The other family members have fear of her.
Excellent points, Judge. Judge, speaking of other family members, we got to hear from her maternal grandparents, her mother, Kristen's mom and dad, her grandparents, and they talked about this media deal. I have another clip for you to take a look at. This is Grandma.
Has there been any promise of money to you in the future for the rights to this and that type of thing?
After the trial, yes.
Okay, after the trial.
The $100,000 or so that we've been talking about, that will get sort of divvied up between that group. Is that right? It won't go to Sarah Grace. Yeah. It won't go to her sister Jaylee. Yeah. It won't go to anybody else. That's money that's going to go directly into your pocket if you were participating. Yeah.
Oh, this is tricky, isn't it, Judge? So they're the parents of one of the victims and the grandparents of the defendant. What do you think, Judge, when you heard that come out in the courtroom yesterday about already a production deal and already they're interested? Grandpa said he signed a preliminary contract for Sarah Grace's story.
Well, money talks and baloney walks. So money is an incentive, and the judge has to carefully weigh, and the jurors later have to carefully weigh the money factor versus the truth. How much money is going to create a different picture of really what took place? It hurts. It'll hurt the prosecution's case, and it tips the scale. It does tip the scale. And as you know, there are times I have clients, sometimes they're accused of something they've done with their partner. And if we settle it civilly, give that other side some bread, then the criminal case goes away. Now, you can't say that. It's extortion, but you have to word it carefully that we're going to give you X number of dollars and that will resolve everything. And we do it in a confidential settlement agreement. Mm-hmm. Yes, money talks, for sure.
Right, Judge. These grandparents, of course, you look at them and your heart breaks that they lost their daughter, they lost their son-in-law, and now they're going through this trial for their granddaughter. And what's really interesting is we see them seeming to be, at least with Grandpa, because he's spoken openly about this, seeming to be very much on Sarah Grace's side. Grandpa spoke to us. We did an interview with him, and he said that there's no way she could have shot them. There's absolutely no way she could have done this. Now, acknowledging he wasn't there, he wasn't a witness to it, but that's his belief. Judge, what do you think when you hear that about people so strongly believing in someone when you see a state saying that they have lots of evidence to the contrary?
Grandpa is blinded by love. Every mother has a hard time admitting that their son committed a crime. When I do criminal cases too, of course, and when you meet with the family, they're in denial that this took place, that their son or daughter couldn't have had the intent and have committed the act. But the facts indicate otherwise. Grandpa lost his daughter, lost his son-in-law, and he wants to hold on to his granddaughter. And you see pictures of the little girl with Grandpa when she was young. Just love, blindness. It's not non-partial. It's a biased opinion. And I put zero weight in his opinion.
Always wise words from you. The Honorable Larry Seidlin, our Court TV Courties love you. It's always a treat when we get you on opening statements. Thank you for your time this morning. We'll see you soon. And friends at home, thank you for waking up with us here on Opening Statements. If you love today's show, share it, tell your friends about it. Go to courttv.com. Just click on that red shows tab. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on courttv.com.